Part 1. Gray light slanted through the blinds as my phone buzzed. I glanced down at the text. I want a divorce. I've found someone who actually makes me happy. It landed like a punch to the chest. My name is Jack Carter. I turned 45 last month, and I'm the lead financial systems analyst at Orbis Union's Richmond office. The office was quiet except for the hum of my 3 monitors, each displaying live feeds of client fraud detection metrics. I was deep into triple-checking an algorithm tweak when Lisa's message pinged again. I've already moved our retirement funds into my personal account. You can keep the house. I don't need it. My coffee sat half cold on the desk. I tapped the screen, then opened our joint banking app. Every balance leapt out at me, but not in the way she expected. I composed a reply. I hope you're happy. 7 words. No argument. No begging. For the next hour, red warnings cascaded across my dashboards. Every joint account we built triggered my bespoke fraud protocols, retirement, investments, emergency funds, even the checking account Lisa thought belonged solely to her. My code didn't ask permission. It only saw large transfers without the required 2-party sign-off. By midday, my phone lit up again, this time with system alerts. Account review initiated. Deposits frozen pending investigation. They weren't messages from Lisa but from the receiving institutions. I didn't crack a smile. Instead, I closed the alerts and refocused on a client's financial security. Other people's money depended on me, and someone needed help more than I did. I thought of Lisa trying to log in later and finding a zero balance. The fraud detection rules I wrote offer no sympathy. I'd witnessed accounts locked down dozens of times when transfers looked suspicious. Money doesn't heed heartbreak. It follows strict protocols. She and I go back to our teenage years in Springfield, 22 years married, high school sweethearts. Back then, I was the numbers guy, calculating batting averages for our baseball team and painstakingly tallying pennies during our senior class fundraiser. Lisa was the social spark, brilliant presentations at Valerie Marketing Group, hopping between workshops in Austin and seminars in Phoenix. She charmed clients. I balanced spreadsheets. Warning signals drifted in like morning fog over water. 6 months ago, she stopped asking about our retirement forecast. 3 months back, she silently opened a new credit line. 2 weeks before that, she casually mentioned our guest room was too cluttered. Who visits us anyway? I'd laughed it off, but the question kept echoing. At Thanksgiving, my sister noticed Lisa's distance. She seems miles away, she said over turkey. I blamed deadlines. Marketing is intense this quarter. But Lisa wasn't anxious. She was calculating. I built a consolidated finance tracker after witnessing a client lose millions in a failed audit. That system had no blind spots. Every account linked, every transfer transparent. I replayed our dinner conversation from Tuesday night, the last time she had been home before Dallas. The candles flickered on the kitchen island as she asked, "How much do we really have saved?" "About 800,000 between us," I replied, stirring my soup. She shrugged, voice gentle, just curious. Now that curiosity stood out in a chilling new light. She had been mapping out her exit strategy. I toyed with calling her mother or her best friend, Patricia, maybe even my own parents. But what would I say? Your daughter tried to steal our retirement and got caught by fraud detection? It sounded absurd, like a daytime soap plot thread too wild to be real, yet it was happening. I closed out my other cases, but my mind kept circling back to Lisa's betrayal. The conference hall in Dallas was humming with marketers pitching campaigns, but I imagined she'd be staring at a different screen, watching balances evaporate. My custom safeguards, built from years of analyzing fraudulent behavior, would ensure no transfer slipped through untouched. Despite this, a part of me felt relief. For years, I had anticipated odd transfers by demanding double authorization. I never imagined I'd enforce it on my own marriage. Still, the rules were the rules. Money demands proof, not explanations. Springfield felt farther away than ever when I stepped outside at day's end. The sun was setting in streaks of orange and crimson. I closed my eyes and breathed the humid wind, remembering how we used to ride our bikes down Maple Avenue, racing toward unbroken horizons. Today, the horizon looked like a chasm. Tomorrow, Lisa would try to call, plead, maybe threaten. But the system I'd engineered would mute her every move until the investigation ended. And I would remain silent, no gloating, no rush to gloat. I'd simply let the rules play out. After all, money doesn't care about age, vows, or promises. It obeys coded logic. And Lisa, for all her charm and marketing savvy, had just discovered that sometimes the most ruthless lawyer is an algorithm you built yourself. Part 2. The hum of my apartment was the only answer to Lisa's frantic voicemails. After shutting off my monitors, I made myself a late dinner, grilled salmon with steamed green beans, then sank onto the couch and flipped through the evening news. My phone buzzed again, the same fraud alerts, still glowing red. The investigation would take at least 5 business days, possibly 7, before any funds could be released. Lisa had clearly rushed, wagering on her speed rather than thinking it through. She'd overlooked one crucial fact. After all our years together, I never missed a single financial detail. Friday morning at 11:30, her call came through. "Jack, my cards declined." Her voice wavered with the familiar tension she used when a presentation derailed. "What's your balance?" I asked calmly. "Zero." "How is that possible?" "I moved the money yesterday." I heard her exhale, then silence. "What did you do?" "Nothing," I replied, voice steady. "The system flagged large withdrawals from our retirement accounts. Federal regulations mandate a review for significant transfers without both signatures." Another pause. Finally, "How long?" 5 to 7 business days, maybe longer if there are issues." She clicked off. I cradled my coffee mug, staring at the glowing alerts on my screen. Something fundamental had shifted, not anger, not betrayal, but a crystalline clarity. For 22 years, I'd safeguarded our future, diligently saving, chosen investments with care, and built automated systems that intercepted any suspicious activity. And now, the person I'd done it all for had taken everything she could and walked away. Yet the sting wasn't the money, it was the ruthless efficiency of her betrayal, executed with the cold precision of a business transaction. I opened our investment dashboard. Despite Lisa's transfers, the bulk of our retirement nest egg remained untouched. The 3-bedroom home we bought in Springfield 5 years ago for $300,000 now appraised at nearly $500,000. My personal stock portfolio, small-cap equities I'd picked after long nights of research, was still intact, as were my individual savings bonds. Every asset was ring-fenced by the exact protocols I designed during my days analyzing audit failures at Orbis Union. By Friday afternoon, I had 23 unread texts from her. I didn't bother to read a single one. What was there left to say? I consulted the divorce attorney I'd retained the previous week as a precaution, Mark Mitchell, a former SEC investigator turned family law specialist. On Saturday, Mark was frank. "File now and document everything. Her attempted misconduct only strengthens your position." Monday morning, I signed and filed the papers. No alimony requests. No claims on the assets untouched by her transfers. The house stayed in my name. The joint checking account remained at its meager $3,000. Lisa could have that if it meant finalizing the split. Throughout the week, I cycled through familiar rhythms. I reported to the office, ate my lunches at my desk, and reviewed incoming fraud cases. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very algorithms I deployed to thwart cyber criminals were the ones shielding me now. That weekend, I tackled practicality over revenge. I packed up the guest room Lisa had once criticized, donating her outdated marketing textbooks and boxing up old family photographs. It wasn't catharsis, it was necessity. The life I knew had ended with an abrupt text, but the safeguards I built endured silently, working without my intervention. Then came the legal skirmish. Lisa had hired Patricia Martinez, a local attorney I'd seen at neighborhood barbecues, always boasting about loopholes and corporate wrangling. Patricia's filing accused me of orchestrating the freeze. Mr. Carter exploited his financial expertise to sabotage marital assets. I met with my lawyer, William Brooks of West Hill Legal, a former banker who understood both numbers and nuance. He read the motion and laughed. "They're banking on misconduct," he said, shaking his head. "They don't realize these alerts are automated system responses, not manual overrides." The hearing was set 2 weeks away. Sunday night, Lisa called 17 times. I let it ring until well past midnight. Finally, I answered. "I need you to call the bank," she pleaded. "Authorize the transfers. They're frozen and I'm stranded in Seattle." "Seattle?" I paused. "I'm with friends. But you have to fix this." "It was authorized." "It's not that simple." She fell silent. Then, "This is complicated." She hung up. I shut off my phone and sat in the dark. The only glow came from the street lamp filtering through my curtains. I thought about how money doesn't negotiate, doesn't sympathize, it follows the rules etched in code. In that moment, I felt an odd sense of peace. The very structures I had built to protect others had saved me, too, without a single extra keystroke on my part. Sometimes the best defenses are the ones you hope you never have to deploy. And sometimes, they're the ones that rescue you from your own life. Part 3. Monday's sunrise brought another complication. My phone chimed with Lisa's frantic message. I'm sure it is. Did you call your conference organizer? Your boss at Monroe & Co.? Since I'm supposedly here for work. I slipped out of bed, the floor's chill reminding me of just how alone I'd feel today. By lunchtime, my fraud monitoring dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. 3 new credit card applications had been filed under our joint address in 48 hours, each one rejected thanks to the same holds I'd put in place. It struck me with a grim irony. Lisa had built her own financial trap, freezing out every source of funds except whatever cash she'd stashed before fleeing. Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Renee Delgado, Lisa's attorney. This is getting messy, Jack. Your wife needs living expenses, Renee pressed. She can access the joint checking. There's still $3,000 in there. Surely that's reasonable. I could almost imagine her brow knitting in faux concern. I let it hang. For me, $800,000 leaping out of our retirement account without a conversation was somehow more reasonable than a $3,000 safety net. Wednesday brought a call from Alan Murray, Lisa's supposed Dallas supervisor. He stumbled over each word. Jack, HR has no record of her registration at that conference. We've noticed irregularities on her expense reports, too. My stomach dropped. Betrayal was one thing. Professional misconduct was an entirely new layer of shock. I realized this was no desperate escape. It was a scheme that reached well beyond our living room. That afternoon, bank officials reached out personally. Sir, we've uncovered multiple anomalous transfers between Monroe & Company corporate accounts and several private accounts traced to one IP address, the compliance officer explained. I felt the world tilt. Lisa hadn't merely emptied our savings. She'd been siphoning corporate budgets for nearly 2 years. The algorithms I'd crafted to catch fraud in client firms were our last line of defense, and they'd trapped her mid-plight. Thursday dawned with Renee filing an emergency motion for Lisa's access to living expenses. I spent the morning downstairs at my dining table, printing thick stacks of statements, historical transaction logs, fraud alerts, IP trails. My training kicked in. Sound evidence speaks stark truths, drowning out any accusation. That evening, Lisa texted, I'm sorry it came to this. The words struck like a rain-soaked letter, wet, limp, and meaningless after attempted theft. I didn't reply. Words felt inadequate. Data never lies. Friday arrived overcast, the courthouse hallway smelling faintly of stale coffee and nervous breath. Lisa looked smaller. Her once steady gaze flickered to the floor. She whispered, Jack. Why? I stepped closer, voice low. Why did I notice? Why did the system work? Why did you think you could take everything? Her silence said more than any apology could. The judge reviewed the automated fraud logs, each red flag transfer cataloged in precise detail, and ruled that access to our joint checking was sufficient. Lisa left empty-handed, her plan unraveled by code I never imagined would feel like a personal betrayal. Monday brought an unexpected visitor, Andrew Price from Northwood Financial Oversight. He knocked once, then entered, briefcase in hand. Mr. Carter, we're investigating systematic fraud at Monroe & Company, he explained. Your personal detection system flagged patterns we'd missed. Over coffee in my conference room, Andrew outlined the full scope. Lisa wasn't alone. Michael Scott in corporate marketing had helped funnel budgets into personal accounts. Preliminary tally suggests $2 million diverted, Andrew said, voice tight. My throat constricted. All this time, I believed I was the one safeguarding our future, yet the real betrayal ran far deeper, through boardrooms and expense sheets. He stood, closing his briefcase. Your accounts will be disentangled from the corporate probe, but we'll need documentation of your innocence, proof you weren't complicit. I nodded, mind already recalling every keystroke, every alert, every line of code that had caught her in the act. Walking back to my office, the spring rain began tapping on the windows. I thought about how money, in its cold precision, unites logic and consequence. It doesn't care about vows or apologies. It listens only to rules you write. And in that clarity, I found an odd kind of justice. Systems so well constructed that they protect, even from the people you love most. Part 4. I gathered every shred of proof I could. Tax returns, personal statements, the full audit trail from my tracking system, every log demonstrating that I'd built these protocols to prevent theft, not facilitate it. That evening, Lisa texted, they're talking federal charges. They think I took millions. I stared at the screen. What could I possibly say? Tuesday morning, my realtor, Carol Simmons, called with surprising news. Someone had inquired about putting the house on the market, An all-cash offer at $300,000, exactly what we'd paid 5 years earlier. They claimed to represent both me and Lisa. The name they gave? Ethan Caldwell. The pieces clicked. Lisa and Ethan hadn't just emptied accounts. They intended to buy our home at its original price, then flip it at today's market value of nearly $500,000. A clean exit plan dressed up as a real estate deal. Wednesday, Detective Sarah Flynn from the Richmond Financial Crimes Unit paid a visit. She laid out the pattern. Employees at Monroe and Company who owned suburban homes were being targeted, with artificial pressure tactics forcing below-market sales. My system's anomaly alerts had exposed the transfer irregularities that unraveled the entire scheme. Victims? She asked. 12 families so far. Yours is the most watertight case we've seen. As I pictured those households, people who played by the rules while others skirted them, I felt the weight of our shared betrayal deepen. Thursday, Lisa's attorney, Renee Delgado, tried again to pry funds loose. Her emergency motion for living expenses was shot down. The court ruled joint checking access was sufficient. My lawyer, William Brooks, was blunt. They're preparing for federal indictment. You'll want every document at the ready. This has escalated beyond domestic property disputes. We discussed potential charges, wire fraud conspiracy, embezzlement, even RICO if prosecutors prove an ongoing criminal enterprise. Lisa could face decades behind bars. That evening, I forwarded every piece of evidence to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Fraud alerts, transfer logs, IP address mappings, every data point my system captured. I hadn't built these safeguards for retaliation, but they'd unveiled a crime far larger than a broken marriage. True justice, I realized, doesn't spring from anger. It emerges from facts, patterns, and systems designed to expose the truth. Thursday morning, I took the stand before the grand jury. My testimony was stripped of emotion, focusing on mechanics, how the automated alerts triggered at 3 a.m. when transfers crossed preset thresholds, how no human hand held the freeze button. The prosecutor nodded appreciatively at the technical precision. When asked if I'd ever accessed Lisa's accounts without permission, I answered plainly, no. The system monitored only patterns in our shared finances. 2 hours later, I stepped down, each piece of data a brick in the case against her. Back at Orbis Union's offices, my team leader, Michelle Chong, briefed me on the new corporate probe. Federal investigators needed a full audit of every system Lisa had touched. All week, Michelle and I poured over 3 years of logs, every login, every transaction, every potential vulnerability. None of us saw this coming, she said quietly. That's exactly why these defenses exist. The weekend arrived with an unexpected calm. Federal agents seized Lisa's and Ethan's phones, laptops, external drives. Evidence piled up with each passing hour. I spent Sunday afternoon in my home office, watching inbox updates, forfeiture motions granted, indictments expanding, asset freezes extending. Then, late that day, Renee called. Lisa wants to cooperate. She's ready to name names if charges are reduced. I paused. Would I recommend she plead for leniency if she revealed further conspirators? It felt surreal to weigh that against our ruined marriage. Tell her, I said, our marriage ended when she tried to steal our retirement. The rest is just numbers. Monday, I received formal notice. The inquiry into our marital assets was closed. All retirement funds would be returned to their original accounts. The joint checking balance of $3,000 would be split equally, $1, $500 each. Lisa would have to make do with half of what she once claimed was necessary for basic living expenses. Tuesday brought another milestone: federal indictments. Lisa, Ethan Caldwell, and 5 other employees of Monroe and Company were charged with organizing a complex fraud ring across Virginia. At their bail hearing, the judge declared them flight risks. No bond would be granted. Lisa's Tuesday evening text arrived from jail. I guess this is really happening. I didn't reply. Instead, I watched the rain streak the window panes, thinking about how the structures I'd created to protect our finances had ultimately shielded me from the greatest theft of all, trust. Part 5. Wednesday brought plea negotiations from the U.S. Attorney's Office. They offered sentence reductions in exchange for full cooperation. Lisa faced a stark choice: nearly 20 years behind bars or testimony against Martin Foster and their wider network. That evening, I cleared out her home office, marketing binders, campaign mock-ups, spreadsheets. Tucked in the bottom drawer of her desk was a leather-bound notebook tracking property assessments, 12 target addresses, including our own. She'd planned with the same precision I used for security, but instead of protection, Her notes mapped out theft. Thursday afternoon, the divorce resumed, complicated by Lisa's incarceration. Her new public defender outlined the bargain they wanted. Your wife will relinquish all marital assets if you testify to her character. I paused. 22 years of living with someone I never suspected could orchestrate such a scheme. I agreed to testify about what I'd observed, nothing more. William Brooks filed the paperwork. The house remained mine, retirement accounts restored, modest alimony dismissed as federal sentencing would render it moot. Friday, a letter arrived from the detention center. In neat handwriting, Lisa admitted, "I got lost chasing money. Martin said the systems could be bypassed. I trusted him over you. I'm sorry. I placed the letter in my secure file, not as forgiveness, but as evidence." The federal trial unfolded over 17 days. I testified twice. First on the technical workings of my monitoring system, how automated alerts fired at 3 a.m. when transfers exceeded thresholds without human input. Then on our marriage. "Did you ever suspect Lisa's professional activities?" the prosecutor asked. "No," I answered. "When did your trust end?" "When my fraud system caught her moving our retirement funds without authorization." Lisa sat in standard prison garb, growing smaller under the courtroom lights as designer clothes gave way to institutional gray. On day 12, Martin Foster struck a plea deal. He agreed to 7 years in exchange for full cooperation, detailing the embezzlement of corporate marketing budgets and the coordinated property flip scheme. Foster's testimony painted a network spanning 3 states, with Lisa as the coordinator, meticulous, tracking every dollar to keep company statements looking clean. The prosecution played recorded conversations, Lisa's voice clear as she explained, "Nathan's systems are top-notch. He'll never suspect I've tweaked the thresholds." Her confidence became her undoing. On day 17, the jury returned a guilty verdict. 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of conspiracy, 2 counts of embezzlement. Sentencing was set for 6 weeks later. I walked out silently, no cameras, no statements. Just me and the weight of the courthouse doors closing behind me. My system had caught the crime, provided the evidence, and served justice without a hint of revenge, only consequences. 2 months later, the sentences were handed down. Lisa received 18 years, Martin Foster 9. I sold the house for $500,000, enough to start anew after fees. I kept my role at Orbis Union and immediately enhanced my fraud detection platform, adding modules specifically to unearth corporate embezzlement. "That's the point," Michelle Chong told me. "These updates will save companies millions." The divorce was finalized quietly, no contest. Lisa's guilty plea removed any disputes. I signed the papers the same day she began her sentence. William called with news. Full restitution was ordered, and my retirement funds were now permanently protected. I moved into a modest, single-story home in Norfolk. No guest rooms to amass clutter, no reminders of 22 wasted years. I began teaching financial fraud detection part-time at Old Dominion University. Real cases, real lessons. Trust, but verify, I told my students. Occasionally, I receive letters from prison. Lisa's remorse intensifies with isolation, but I don't reply, don't visit, don't forgive. My life runs on systems. Coffee at 7 a.m., a simple breakfast, automated market checks, a commute without destination to clear my head. Sometimes I pass the sleek New Valerie marketing group building on errands, a reminder of fresh starts. 12 families have received restitution, evidence that well-designed defenses can protect more than just one household. Betrayal may fracture trust, but systems endure, and sometimes, justice emerges not through emotion, but through equations. In the end, I found peace in mathematics. The end.